I finally got around to watching Elementals. It was a Disney movie that I was like, it kind of piqued my interest, but if you guys have been watching the channel or if you watch any of my other live streams or anything like that on my other channels, you might know that I've been very, very critical of Disney as of late. They ruined Marvel. They're ruining so many movies. I don't like a lot of stuff they do, but this movie piqued my interest, and to be honest with you, it delivered. I'm very happy with what Disney did this time around. We're going to talk about Elementals, and this is going to be a spoiler review, by the way, in case you haven't seen it, but of course, like, it's been out for a little while now, so I don't see why you wouldn't want to watch this video. But regardless, thank you so much for being here, guys. We're going to get into it in just a second. Before we do, though, I do want to say hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's talk about Elemental. So I was really interested in this because I feel like the movie just had some potential, because it's all about the elements living together. You have the earth, you have, I guess you could call it air, because you had the cloud people, you have the fire, you have the water, and everybody's trying to live among one another. And when the show really started, I thought it was reminding me a little bit about Zootopia. I can see them taking different elements from there, but elementals. This is such a stupid thing to say, man. But this piqued my interest a little bit more. I didn't like Zootopia at all, and I typically don't like a lot of stuff that comes out of Disney, but I don't know why, man. Just piqued my interest a little bit. Maybe it's the art style. I like looking at that type of stuff, so I just appreciate that. The art style was really, really weird, because it's like these elementals were, I don't know, they had their own particular art style, but then the backgrounds of everything kind of looked like hyper realistic. So it was throwing me off a little bit. And honestly, the designs for the characters were really, really cool. I found myself I was watching this with my girl, and I was like, look how much work they put into making Ember's, and Ember's the main character, Ember's hips and legs all defined, you know what I mean? So they obviously put a lot of work into this, and I was just a little bit the only thing that threw me off was the elements in the background seem to have just a little bit of a different animation. I don't know why. I don't know if that's even the case. Maybe it's just something stupid that I noticed. I don't really know. Regardless, let's get into the actual plot of the movie. So it starts off with I don't know if you can, I'm not going to stop comparing it to Zootopia, but it just it follows the character named Ember, who's the girl, and then she is living in this city, or living on the outskirts of the city, where all the elements seem to get along together, except for obviously the fire people. The fire people destroy stuff, they burn stuff, they get angry, or at least it seems like they all kind of get angry. They have those little outbursts and they destroy anything. Regardless, the city was all built to kind of outcast fire people. And I can already see where this is setting up, because this is something that Disney has been doing as of lately. And I ask you guys to please not assume anything about me, especially if you're talking about Disney, you're talking about politics, you're talking about all that stuff, right? You can get quite touchy. But I was kind of thinking okay, the movie's going to start going in the direction where you relate it to real world stuff, where it's okay, the fire people, everybody kind of hates the fire people, and the world doesn't want them to live here. And then I thought that was going to be the entire message of the movie. And while it did have that message, they did it a little bit properly. You know what I mean? And we're going to get a little bit into that. So she's walking around the city. We get to see the city and how it works, kind of. And it's just obviously the fire people have been outcast. But then after we get the whole introduction scene, it takes us back to the fire shop, or the fire store, and it's just starts off the whole storyline where Ember is supposed to take care of her father in the store. Her father wants to retire, but she's not trusted to take over the fire shop as of yet, because she has a temper, and that's a big thing about fire, because once the fire people have a temper, they start turning purple, and then they have a big fire outburst and destroy stuff. And they really, really focused on Ember having her temper, and the parents being okay, you need to control your temper. It's okay. Everything's okay. Just breathe in, breathe out. And I thought it was going to be okay, at first when this movie started, I thought the whole message was going to be okay, accept everybody. But then I was kind of okay, are they going to go in an even better direction? Because I kind of I feel that's a little bit more personal, especially to me, who, especially me growing up, I struggled really, really bad with a temper. Of course, I've been totally okay. My parents put me in martial arts. Everything ended up turning out okay. But it's something that I can relate to way more. So I was thinking if a kid's watching this, okay, that's definitely a better route to go down. Because if you want to talk about the accepting everybody thing, I'm of the opinion that a movie's not going to change that. Bad people are just not going to accept people in general. So I think it's a little bit better to focus in on okay, if you're a kid and you have a temper, everything's going to be okay. This is what could happen. You know, kind of the messages that the old movies tried to give, just loving people, and you know what I mean? They focused in on something. So I was kind of thinking along those lines, where it's okay, because you got to think Disney, what is the underlying message? They're trying to push something with these movies, but this time they were really, and again, I'm not saying, I ask you to not assume anything about me, because I think they go overboard a little bit with what they do, but this one, I'm like, okay, if they're focusing on a temper, that's really new, that's something that we haven't seen before, and that's something that could really help a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, bad people are going to just not accept people in general, so making the movie about that, I don't think that will change a single thing. That's where I'm trying to come from, if that makes sense. So I was happy about this. And I was like, okay, maybe this is a movie like I could show my kid one day, especially like if it has my genes and it ends up having a temper, because of course, like I really struggled with that throughout my life. So anyways, getting back into the movie, we figure out her, like, she runs a shop on her own after having the whole speech about her temper, and she can't control her temper. So eventually she's dealing with all these customers, and she's taking back a spark and everything, and she gets overwhelmed because this is the time where she needs to prove that she can run the store on her own. She can take over the store. She needs to prove that, but then she can't do it because some people can't control her temper, and this is just about the movie. She runs off into the basement, and then, of course, she has the temper outburst, and then when the fire people have their temper outburst, they destroy stuff, and this is where the movie kind of spirals, because she destroys the basement, like, and then starts a leak. The water starts flooding the basement, which is even worse for fire people because it makes them sick. You can see, like, the dad kind of coughing in the water, and you can't, like, touch it. It kind of, like, burns the fire people if you step in it, you know what I mean? So that was really bad, but then this is where we're introduced to our character named Wade, and Wade is the water person that comes through the pipe, and it turns out he is a city inspector. So this is where the movie kind of spirals around, because he sees, oh, your dad built this all by himself. Oh, there's a leak in this pipe. I need to shut this place down. And then we get into this really fun chase scene with those two. And this is something that I didn't touch on at the beginning when I was talking about this movie at the beginning, because another thing that was really fun about this city is seeing like how all the elements kind of work together. So Ember, who is so out of place in this city and walking around, it's all made for like the tree people. It's all made for the water people. It's all made for the thunder clouds. The fire does nothing but destroy everything as she goes through. So it's like even in the subway, people are scared of her. So that must be really hard to do. And it's just interesting the way everything really interacted. This movie, and I hate to keep bringing it back here, but it reminds me of like a better version of Zootopia, if that makes sense. So anyways, they continue that chase scene. Ember doesn't want her place to get shut down, or her dad's place at least, and then they end up talking into like the city hall person, and she lets her temper get the best of her again. And yet this is another message of the movie. She lets a temper get the best of her. She blows up the place that is just nothing but leaves and nothing but trees. So of course, because she had an outburst, and you know what, that's all. Honestly, again, I'm thinking about this because my girl's pregnant right now. We're going to bring a kid into this world. Can I show my kid this movie? You know what I mean? And this would be a really good movie to teach, look what your temper can do. Look what happens if you don't control yourself. Stuff like that. She's destroying everything around her, and then everything kind of spirals. So there's like, okay, you destroyed my house. We're going to shut down your dad's place. And then he just left work. So then, of course, the movie can't end there. She needs to continue on. But thankfully, Wade is a really good guy. So they end up going to, I think they called it the Cyclone Stadium. If not, it was Cyclone something. It doesn't really matter. So the Cloud people are having this like Harry Potter soccer ball game. The name's escaping me at the moment. You know, that game they played in Harry Potter was kind of like the same thing except basketball. And she ended up continuing, still not learning about her temper, getting angry. She's disturbing someone trying to watch the game. I don't know if it was like the mayor or whatever it is of the city. You know what I mean? I don't know if they called it anything particular in Cloud Town. So anyways, she's talking to the mayor of the city. Because of her temper, she's getting angry and she's disturbing the game, and she doesn't understand. All she's thinking about is me, me, me. And as this movie went on, I kept thinking like, oh my God, Ember, you are such a piece of crap. And I actually, to be honest with you, the main character wasn't likable, but at the same time, it made for an interesting story. I didn't like her at all. I thought she was mean. I thought she was horrible. I thought she had a bad attitude. She had a temper. But again, it makes for a good movie. I quite enjoyed the movie. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what are you disturbing this person trying to watch a sports game for? She doesn't care about your problems. You know what I mean? Well, the mayor has an inherent responsibility, but she's off the clock. Let her enjoy the game. But then they ended up bonding a little bit because both of them love their dad, and there needs to be a solution for the movie. So she's like, okay, here's the deal. You can fix the leak, and I won't shut down your dad's store. So this brings in a whole nother plot point where they need to go in and seal the leak. And I thought it was, to be honest with you, I thought the whole thing would be about her running the shop, and then once Wade came, I thought they were going to fall in love. But then I was like, okay, it looks like the whole movie plot might actually be about fixing this leak and finding the leak. So I thought it was going to be like an adventure type movie. And then as the movie kept going on, things kept changing, and I was like, oh, is this the direction they're going to me? Oh, is this the actual plot of the movie? But it kind of like touched on all of it, so it made for a good movie in general. So here I am thinking about the whole, they're going to have this big adventure, they're going to go down the water pipes, and then they're going to find the leak, and they're going to shut it down, but that all happened fairly quickly, and they just used sandbags to shut it down, so it ended up being really easy. But then the movie turned into like a whole love thing, and then they started living. Ember and Wade started going on dates, and she's like, I can't be with you, and Wade's like, why not? You know, we like each other. And then they ended up like just having fun together. They had a whole day, and Ember actually started being happy because having another person in your life, having a relationship with one person is all like nothing but a positive thing to have. So the store started to see Ember happy, and then once she was happy in her relationship, her temper started going down. She was able to deal with customers. You saw all that type of stuff. So there was like a whole big scenario of that. They're like, I don't know what they call it in movies. It's just like a scene of events, a chain of events where everything was just going okay in Ember's life. And then she ended up visiting Wade's family, because I don't think they made it like specific, but they were dating or what happened. Crap. My apologies. I'm not remembering if this happened before or after they went to the family. It probably went after, but regardless, it doesn't really matter because we're getting through all the plot points here. So Ember goes to visit his family, and the whole place was water, and it was really funny because like you see again, this whole city is built for not fire people, so she needs to stand on like a cloth, and the whole family, to be honest with you, was quite annoying because all they did was cry. But then they ended up playing this crying game, and then Wade ended up making Ember cry because he said like such nice things about her, and Ember was like, I never cry, I'm tough, I'm a big boss girl, I'm really tough, you know. And then he ended up making her cry because every girl just wants to be loved. So then things are all peachy again, and I don't remember, again, my apologies if this happens before or after they meet the family. It doesn't really matter though. But then again, the leak comes back, they need to go fix it again, which is another really minor thing. I think she learns how to use glass. Oh no, that was after, because she showed the family that she could make glass with her powers, so she ended up fixing the leak with tempered glass. That's what happened. So after they did that, they ended up having another really romantic moment. And this was really, really upsetting because it was such a beautiful moment. So they come out from fixing the leak, right? And then they start like, Ember's like, oh, I want to touch you, but I can't. You know what I mean? And then Wade's like, why not? Let's just see what happens. And then he ends up like, let's start small. Like they do a finger or a hand, whichever it was. And it was like kind of cool seeing them interact because you saw Wade start boiling, but it didn't make sense to me because Ember's fire. Like, I understand water doesn't like just put out fire. Like, it's not that simple. But like, you got to think if these two are like hugging and dancing, the water would take over the fire. You know what I mean? If they're like hanging out for that long. So regardless, it's a movie. They start touching. You see like you hear the tss, and then everything's okay. Like Ember starts steaming. Wade starts boiling. They start dancing, and they end up having like an amazing moment. But then this is where that bad character in Ember kicks off, and she starts thinking about her family. And she's like, oh, water people and fire people can't be together. And then she runs off, and it's like, what the hell, man? What's going on with you? You're such a loser. I'm trying to be careful with my YouTube words here, man. We're trying to get this channel monetized one day, so I got to be careful with that. But anyways, so she like, I don't remember if she actually said it. I think she said it. We're done. Regardless, there's been a bunch of times where she made the whole relationship thing, you know, just like them being destructive to themselves, you know what I mean? So Wade's just sitting there like, oh, we just had a beautiful moment. I don't even get to touch you anymore. You know what I mean? So that moves on to kind of like the last arc of the movie where she's all sad. The dad announces retirement and she's going to take over the store. So they have the blue flame, which is like a big tradition thing about the fire people. And she's about to like have this big moment. I guess they need a big celebration for her to take over the store. But then Wade bursts on the scene and he's like, Ember, I love you. And then she just looks at him just like, what are you doing? I don't love you back. It's like, I'm like, what is going on right now? Like, that was such a useless plot point in my opinion. Like, I thought they could like, it was fun having the adventure, just make like fixing the leak a little bit better, explore the city a little while, you know what I mean? And then end up having, you can have everything take place. The new burst, you know, like everything that happened in the movie, taking over the shop, confessing to your dad. But I thought this was just so pointless because she just hurt his feelings for no reason. And it didn't even matter. You know what I mean? But then in that whole thing, Wade ends up walking away all sad, poor guy, getting his heart absolutely stomped on. That's why Wade can't be a nice guy. Wade can't be a crying man because she would not have done that to somebody who would have put his foot down. He's like, I love you, Ember. I love you, Ember. You know, like that wouldn't have happened. So you could argue that this is all Wade's fault because he's a pushover that went with somebody who's incredibly destructive with a temper. Regardless, conversation for another time. So in that whole scenario, it turned out that Wade accidentally confessed that Ember was the one who destroyed the dad's basement. So the dad was like, you are not taking over the store anymore. And that just ended up like having a big family fight. But then fast forward a little bit, turns out that the pipe actually broke again, and then the whole like city started flooding. And this ended up taking us to the final piece of the movie, because Ember wanted to do something good for once, and she swam past the parents and ended up like wanting to at least, she couldn't save the shop, so she wanted to save the blue flame, because again, I didn't really touch on that, but they like had a whole plot point about it where it's like this blue flame is like really important to the fire families, the fire people families. So she wanted to go save it. She wanted to do something right. So she was trying to like hold the water back and like make glass around it, but it wasn't working. But then here comes Wade the SIMP, coming to save the day. After she said all those mean things about him, I would have been like, you okay, that fire can put you out, that's okay. But Wade comes in, he's a much better guy. He's like, I'm coming through the keyhole, and he came in, ended up saving the day. They ended up getting trapped in a room, and this was a really, really hard point in the movie, because they were trapped in, and so far, whenever they touched or anything, like it was all good. They could be together in the city, but they were in this like really small enclosed room. So one of them, either Wade was going to put Ember out, or Ember was going to evaporate Wade. And they kept trying to get out, but it didn't work. And then that's where it was like really, really tugging at the heart, man, because I was sitting here and I was like, okay, is Disney gonna kill off like a character like that? Is he gonna die? No, this is gonna be like a nice romantic movie. So I was kind of on the side where he didn't die, but the movie made it quite convincing. I don't know if you guys ever have that problem where you're like kind of thinking about that, where it's like, nah, they wouldn't do that, they wouldn't kill that guy off, so that's where I was kind of thinking. That's where I was kind of stuck when I was like, it was really convincing. So Wade ended up evaporating. Ember ended up crying. Waits until this dude was dying until she confessed her love with her. I'm like, man, she did not deserve Wade, man. But then again, Wade's not exactly a top tier guy, you know what I mean? So maybe they do deserve each other. Who knows? But anyways, it turns out Wade ended up being all okay. They had this really tough moment where the flood went down. They found Ember, and she's like, Wade's gone. I evaporated him, and it was all sad. But then we found out all you had to do was make him cry, because there were still little droplets. And that was actually really, really funny, because she was reciting all these like romantic things to him that he was saying a long time ago to her. So she was finally accepting that she loves a water person, so he started leaking from the top. And what really made me laugh actually was like, okay, hey, make him cry. Say something that'll make him cry. And then the dad was like, you are not banned from my store anymore. And then like the water started pouring more. Like I actually laughed out loud at that part. That was really good. So Wade ended up being okay. They ended up loving each other. They shared a kiss, and they all live happily ever after. The movie ends with them leaving on an internship, and her giving respect to her father respecting her for not wanting to take over the shop, and living her own life. Happily ever after, her and Wade be okay. Fire people and water people can be together. So guys, coming out of this movie, I actually really enjoyed it, and it's something that it's been a really long time since I enjoyed something with Disney. So with Disney, you got to take a look at like the underlying messages of the story. So what I really liked about them, okay? What they did is they really honed in on the temper, because again, I can relate to that personally. Growing up, I had a horrible temper. I couldn't control it, and I didn't, of course, have fiery outbursts like Ember, but I get it. You know what I mean? The things you say, the way you can act can really damage your relationships and really damage your life. So I think that's really, really good to teach kids. I really think that's a unique and fun message to put into the movie. Makes for a really good movie, but then you have that whole plot point, and Disney's been known to go overboard with this, but I don't think they did, to be honest with you. I don't think they went overboard at all, because again, I touched on this at the beginning of the movie, and I ask you guys not to assume anything about my beliefs, okay? I believe what I'm about to say right now is quite safe to say, so I just ask that you don't branch us off, you don't assume anything about me, okay? Because quite frankly, like, I mean this with all the respect in the world, you guys don't know anything about me, okay? So I just ask that you don't assume anything about me. Like I said at the beginning of the movie, of course there is a message here where you need to accept everybody. Everybody needs to be accepted. I think I'm just of the opinion where it's crazy. Like it's crazy to not accept people. If you love somebody, like love doesn't know skin, love doesn't know personality. You just end up loving each other. Okay, so I'm totally okay with like different kinds of people loving each other. I don't see the issue with that. I don't think Disney needs to push it as much as they are, because I don't think these movies would change anything. Bad people who just look at somebody for the way that they appear, they're already in like a certain mindset. They're not going to see a movie where Disney is actively ruining the movie by focusing in on this one message. They're not going to go see that and go, oh, I was wrong. Oh, I guess that wasn't okay. I like people now because, and the kids aren't really going to see it either because the kids are going to learn from their parents, So I just think like focusing that whole plot point into movies is useless. If you're trying to push that message, which like, again, everyone getting along in the world, everybody accepting each other, I'm all for that, man. I love that idea. I really, really do. But movies aren't going to change that. So I don't think you should be destructive and ruin movies by just making it about a message instead of making an actual really, really good movie. Does that make sense? I feel like that was really safe to say. So I really like that elements, why they did, well, while they still had that message in there, they didn't take over the movie. They focused on making a good movie. And I really love the way they dived into the temper thing. I really love that. So this is a movie that's totally okay to show kids. I love that, and I thought it was a really cute movie. It's something that both adults and children can enjoy. Like I said, I watched it with my wife and my dog, so we both enjoyed it. Really good movie. Really good job from Disney. So guys, this is where I'll leave it up to you down below. What did you think about Elementals down below? I'd love to hear from you. I really enjoyed the movie, man. Hopefully Disney is back on the ball because, again, been very critical of them as of lately. But guys, if you'd like to continue watching the Clenema channel, there'll be 2 videos on screen for you to check out right now. I will see you either there or in the next video, guys. Take care.